The first cool breath of autumn was whispering through the pines when the world I'd built for 17 years shattered. It didn't come with the crash, but with the soft, choked sound of my daughter weeping in the next room. Her name is Lily. She is all the best parts of both of us. Or so I had always believed. My steadiness, her father's quick, bright smile. That smile was gone now, replaced by a tremor in her lips I'd never seen before. She stood in the doorway of our sunlit kitchen, her phone clutched in her hand like a live wire, her shoulders shaking with silent, seismic sobs. Mom! That one word, a fissure in the earth. I dropped the dish towel, my hands suddenly cold. Honey, what is it?
Honey, what is it? She couldn't speak. She just thrust the phone toward me. The screen glowed, a square of curated cruelty. It was Instagram. A woman, all sun-kissed limbs and glossy hair, leaned against the shimmering hood of a brand new BMW, a convertible the color of crushed sapphires. The backdrop was familiar, achingly so, the weathered cedar siding and the stone chimney of our lake house, the placid blue water stretching behind it. The lake house my grandfather had built, the one that was in my name, the one where Lily had learned to swim and catch fireflies, and had whispered, just last summer, maybe we could sell this one day to help with the down payment near campus. The caption was a dagger to the heart, delivered with a flirtatious wink emoji. Thank you to my generous sugar daddy for the early birthday present. Couldn't have pulled the trigger without you, at David Miller. David Miller, my husband of 19 years. The username was something cutesy, a play on her name, Brittany with a B, 24 years old, a junior analyst at David's firm, according to her bio. I knew her, vaguely. I'd seen her at the company picnic, laughing too loudly by the keg, her eyes tracking David as he manned the grill. I dismissed it then. I was good at dismissing things. The air left my lungs in a rush. It wasn't just the affair. It was the brazenness, the tagging, the lake house, and the car, a BMW. A visceral, screaming intuition began to uncoil in my gut, cold and sharp. Lily found her voice, a broken thing. I checked the college account, Mom. I was logging in to look at the statements for my financial aid forms. A fresh wave of tears spilled over. It's empty. It's just gone. There's $43.12 left. $43,000. Gone. Every birthday check from her grandparents, every summer job savings, every monthly deposit I'd made since the day the obstetrician placed her, squalling and perfect, into my arms. A sacred fund, a promise wrapped in a 529 plan. We'd set it up together, David and I. He'd insisted on having access. Of course. Just in case, sweetheart, we're a team. A team. The account required both signatures for withdrawals over $10,000. A safeguard. My body moved before my mind could catch up. I pulled Lily into my arms, her tears soaking my shirt. I could feel her heart hammering against my ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. Breathe, baby, just breathe. But I wasn't breathing. A white-hot fury was crystallizing inside me, hard and clear. I guided her to the couch, held her until the worst of the storm passed into hiccuping shudders. Then I walked, very calmly, to the home office we shared. I opened the filing cabinet, found the folder with the bank statements. They'd been coming to a joint email account I'd set up for household matters, an inbox I rarely checked, cluttered with coupon blasts and utility bills. David handled the finances. He always had. Don't you worry your pretty head about it, he'd say, kissing my temple. I opened the laptop, my fingers ice cold and steady. I navigated to the forgotten inbox. And there they were.
3 automated withdrawal confirmations spaced over 8 months. $15,000, $13,000, $15,000. Just under the threshold each time. Clever. My signature was there, a scanned version of my loopy cursive. It looked almost right, almost, but the slant was off. The capital M in my maiden name, which I always used on official documents, was wrong. He'd practiced. He'd forged my name. He'd stolen from his daughter in installments, like paying a sinister mortgage on a secret life. I printed the statements. The mechanical whir of the printer was the only sound in the house. Lily had gone silent on the couch, staring at the ceiling. I looked at her, a brilliant girl who had just been accepted to her dream school, a prestigious university on the coast. She'd gotten a partial merit scholarship, a testament to the late nights and relentless drive that were all her own. It would cover about half. Her savings, our savings for her, were to cover the rest. The deposit deadline was in 10 days. I picked up my phone and called David. He answered on the second ring, his voice a smooth baritone laced with the faint impatience of a busy man. "Hey, hon, what's up? I've got a board review in 20. Come home. Now." "Claire, I can't just—" "Come home. Now, David, or I drive down to your office and have this conversation in your glass VP tower with your mistress watching from her cubicle." My voice was a stranger's, low, flat, and utterly devoid of emotion. A beat of stunned silence. Then, "I'll be there in 30. He made it in 20. He came through the front door not with guilt, but with a defensive, stormy energy, his suit jacket slung over his shoulder. "What is this emergency that couldn't wait?" he began. Then his eyes landed on Lily, prone on the couch, and the printed pages in my hand. His face changed. The confident mask slipped, just for an instant, revealing the panicked calculation beneath. "Lily," he said, his voice shifting to a placating tone. "Sweetheart, what's going on?" "Sweetheart, what's going on?" She didn't look at him. I held up the statements. "Where is Lily's money, David?" He blinked. "What are you talking about? The college fund? The $43,000? The 3 withdrawals with my forged signature?" I took a step toward him. "The BMW? The lake house? Brittany with a B?" The color drained from his face. For a moment, I saw the boy I'd fallen in love with in college, caught in a lie about a keg party, before the years hardened him into this polished, entitled stranger. Then the defensiveness slammed back down. He sighed, a performative sound of exasperation. "Claire, let's not be dramatic." "Dramatic?" The word ripped from Lily's throat. She sat up, her eyes blazing with a hurt so profound it seemed to scorch the air. "You bought your girlfriend a car with my college money. You took her to my lake house." "It's our lake house," David corrected, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "And community college for 2 years would build character before you transfer. It's a smart financial move. Plenty of kids take loans." I stared at him. The sheer, breathtaking audacity of it left me speechless. He had weaponized financial prudence to justify his theft. He had pathologized her legitimate devastation as entitlement. "Where did the money go, David?" I asked again, my voice deadly quiet. "Where did the money go, David?" I asked again, my voice deadly quiet. He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair. "The car was 38. The rest, hotels, a bracelet she wanted. Claire, you have to understand, she's demanding. It's not like I planned this." "You have to understand." As if he'd accidentally overdrafted a checking account, not systematically looted his child's future to fund a cliché. As if the problem was Brittany's avarice, not his betrayal. I looked at my husband. Really looked at him. I saw the expertly tailored suit, the Swiss watch that cost more than my first car, the aura of success he wore like cologne. I saw the man who had held my hand through childbirth, who had taught Lily to ride a bike, who had toasted our last anniversary with promises of a future watching our grandchildren by that very lake. And I saw that man was a ghost, a carefully constructed facade hiding a hollow, selfish core. "Get out," I said. "Claire, be reasonable. Get out of this house, now." He looked from my stony face to Lily's shattered one. For a second, something like fear flashed in his eyes. Not remorse. Fear of consequence. He picked up his jacket. "You're overreacting. We'll talk when you've come down." He left. The door clicked shut with a finality that echoed through the bones of the home we'd made. I didn't sleep that night. I sat at the kitchen table, a fortress of legal pads and documents growing around me. As dawn painted the sky peach and gray, I called a lawyer, a ruthless, brilliant woman named Miriam Goldstein, recommended by a friend who'd survived a different kind of war. I told her everything: the forgery, the theft, the affair with a subordinate, the company's strict ethics policy. Miriam's voice was crisp with focus. The forgery is criminal fraud. The misappropriation of marital assets for a non-marital purpose is a massive factor in equitable distribution. His conduct is egregious. We have him by the short hairs, Claire. Do not confront him again. Let me talk to the bank. Next, I drove to the bank myself with Miriam on speakerphone. We met with the branch manager and a somber security officer. I provided samples of my real signature. The manager, a woman with kind, tired eyes, compared them to the scanned signatures on the withdrawal forms. Her mouth tightened into a grim line. "These are not a match," she confirmed. "The pen pressure is all wrong. It's a tracing job, and not a very good one. We will be initiating a fraud investigation. The police may become involved." The machinery of justice was beginning to turn, its gears cold and slow. I went home and emptied our joint savings and checking accounts. Every last penny. It was technically half his money, but the math was simple in my heart. He owed Lily $43,000. This was a down payment. I transferred it all into a new, high-yield account in my name only. Then I called a realtor about the lake house. "Sell it," I said. "Furnished. As is. Fast." I used some of the drained joint money to pay Lily's non-refundable deposit to her dream school before the deadline expired. When the confirmation email landed in my inbox, I walked to her room. She was curled on her bed, staring at the wall. "The deposit is paid," I said softly. "You're going. The lake house is on the market. It will cover the rest and more. You will have enough." She turned her head, her eyes pools of exhaustion and lingering shock. "What about Dad? What about him? Is he going to jail?" "I don't know," I answered truthfully, "but he's not going to stop you." The storm broke in stages. First, David discovered the emptied accounts when Brittany, presumably, asked for another gift. His calls went from baffled to furious to desperate. I stopped answering. He showed up at the house, but I'd changed the locks. He came to my sister Elena's, where Lily and I were staying, a safe, angry haven filled with the smell of strong coffee and unwavering support. He stood on the neat suburban lawn, unshaven, his corporate armor replaced by a rumpled polo shirt. "Claire, you're stealing from me! You're turning my daughter against me!" His shouts drew curtains twitching in the quiet street. Elena's husband, Mark, a quiet man who built custom furniture with gentle hands, walked out onto the porch. He didn't yell. He simply crossed his arms, a solid, immovable wall. "You need to leave, David, now, or I call the cops for trespassing and disturbing the peace." David's bluster faltered under Mark's steady gaze. He left, sputtering threats about lawyers. His lawyer contacted Miriam the next day. The tone was suddenly, strikingly conciliatory. David wanted to settle. Quickly. Quietly. through private mediation. No court. Miriam relayed the message to me, a dry chuckle in her voice. He's terrified. The forgery is a criminal issue. The affair with the subordinate violates his company's ethics code. A public divorce, especially one with allegations of fraud and misappropriation, would be a career-ending event for a VP. He makes, what, $300,000 a year? That's a life he's not ready to lose. He's offering a settlement. A good one, by the looks of the initial number. It would secure Lily's tuition and then some. What would we give up? I asked. A public airing. A chance for a judge to formally adjudicate his conduct. The possibility of pressing criminal charges for the forgery. In exchange for guaranteed money now, you agree to confidentiality and a smoother, faster dissolution. It was a bribe. A silencing fee. Then my parents called. David had gone to them, the prodigal son-in-law, tears in his eyes. Were they real, I wondered? He was a good actor, spinning a tale of a misunderstanding, of my overreaction, of a wife intent on burning his life to the ground out of spite. He was a master of narrative, my husband. He'd sold himself to me, to his company, to his mistress. Now he was selling his victimhood to my parents. Claire, honey. My mother's voice was strained with worry over the line. David is devastated. He says he made a terrible mistake, that this girl pursued him, that it was a moment of weakness. He's willing to go to counseling to pay everything back. He committed fraud, Mom. He stole from Lily. And you emptied your joint accounts and sold the lake house. That's retaliation. That's not going to help anyone heal. Divorce is hard enough without making it a public spectacle. Think of Lily. Do you want her dragged through court? Do you want her to have to testify against her own father? Take the settlement, darling. Be the bigger person. Move on quietly. Forgive. Be the bigger person. The eternal refrain for women facing male wrongdoing. Swallow your anger. Compress your pain into a more palatable, dignified shape. Make it small. Make it quiet. My father's voice, always the bass line to my mother's melody, came on. Your mother's right, Claire Bear. Don't go looking for revenge. It'll poison you. It'll poison Lily. The man is offering a fair deal. Take the money, secure your daughter's future, and let her have a relationship with her father. That's what's best for her. I looked across Elena's living room. Lily was at the dining table, her laptop open to a campus housing portal, a faint, determined light back in her eyes. She'd heard my side of the conversation. She met my gaze. When I hung up, she said, "You're not going to settle, are you, Mom?" They think I should. They think it's about revenge. What do you think it's about? She asked, her voice older than her 17 years. Justice, I said. The word felt solid in my mouth. A public record of what he did, so he can't rewrite it, so his company knows who they have making their decisions, so a judge hears how he forged your mother's name and called you entitled for wanting the future he promised you. A ghost of her old smile touched her lips. Good. They say you should have a relationship with him. Her expression hardened into something I'd never seen on her young face, a clean, sharp line of resolve. I told him I don't want one. Last time he called, he said you were poisoning me against him. I said, you spent my college fund on your girlfriend, Dad. Mom didn't have to say a word. She took a breath. If you go to court, I'll testify. I'll tell them exactly what he said about community college and loans. I want them to know. My heart ached with a fierce, terrible pride. She was no longer just my child to protect. She was an ally, a witness, a young woman demanding accountability in the language she had available. Elena was less nuanced. Drag him, she said, slamming a mug of coffee onto the counter. Drag him through every court in the state. Let the world see the pathetic little man who steals from his kid to impress a girl young enough to be his daughter. Men like him only learn when the consequences are public and painful. A private settlement is just a cost of doing business for him. He'll do it again. Miriam laid out the cold calculus. The settlement offer is financially strong. It minimizes risk. Court is a gamble, even with a strong case. It's expensive, emotionally draining, and unpredictable. But we are incredibly strong. The forged signatures are a smoking gun. The bank's fraud investigation is on our side. We could likely get a more favorable asset division, possibly alimony given the circumstances, and we could expose his conduct. There's power in exposure. It could affect his career, his reputation. That is a form of justice the settlement deliberately avoids. Meanwhile, David's personal pleas continued, a desperate counterpoint to his lawyer's formal offers. "Claire, please," his voicemails begged. "I made a mistake. A huge, stupid mistake. I'll pay back every cent. I'll go to therapy. We can fix this. Just don't go to court. You can't ruin my life over this." Over this. The minimization was breathtaking. Brittany, the mistress, had vanished from the scene. She'd quit her job, Miriam discovered. The shiny new BMW, it seemed, wasn't worth the impending tsunami of scandal. David was alone now, facing the rubble of the 2 lives he'd been juggling. The pressure from my parents intensified. They drove to Elena's. My mother sat on the couch, her hands twisting in her lap. "This vindictiveness isn't you, Claire. You're not a cruel person. Think of the family. Think of the embarrassment. What will people say?" "They'll say he stole from his daughter and fucked his assistant," Elena muttered from the doorway, earning a gasp from our mother. "Language, Elena! And is that what you want, Claire? For that to be the story, for Lily's name to be mixed up in this sordid mess in a public courtroom? The settlement protects her privacy." "He didn't protect her privacy when he tagged himself in that photo," I shot back, my calm startling even me. "He didn't protect her future when he drained her account. Why is the onus on us to be quiet, to be private, to protect him from the consequences of his very public actions?" My father placed a heavy hand on my shoulder. "Going through a trial, it changes people, Claire Bear. It hardens you. It makes you just as bad as him, fighting in the mud. Take the clean money, walk away, be better. It makes you just as bad as him." That was the arrow that nearly found its mark. Was my desire for a judge to name his actions, for his professional world to see his true character, just a refined form of vengeance? Was I using justice as a cloak for my own rage? I spent a sleepless night wrestling with the 2 futures that branched before me. Future A, the settlement. We sign the papers. The money flows, a substantial guaranteed sum. The divorce is finalized in hushed mediation rooms. David keeps his job, his reputation in the professional world intact. He issues a vague, crafted apology to Lily, which she rejects. He moves on, perhaps with another Brittany in a few years. His lesson learned only that he needs to be more careful with paperwork. The forgery charges are dropped as part of the deal. The story becomes a private family tragedy, whispered about but never confirmed. My parents are relieved. I am the bigger person. And somewhere deep inside me, a stone of unresolved fury settles, a permanent, cold weight. Future B, the courtroom. We walk into a public forum. We present the evidence. The Instagram post, the bank statements with their clumsy forgeries, the testimonies of bank officials. Lilia takes the stand, her voice clear as she describes the moment she saw the empty account, the words her father used. The judge's face grows stern. The local business journal, which once profiled David as a rising star, runs a follow-up. VP accused of embezzling daughter's college fund for Mistress. His company, bound by its ethics policy, places him on leave, then terminates him.
The divorce decree includes a scathing recitation of his wasteful dissipation of marital assets and egregious conduct, awarding us a lion's share of what remains. He faces possible criminal charges for forgery. The story is public, messy, and true. My parents are mortified. I am called a vindictive bitch by some. And my daughter sees that when a man steals from you, lies to you, and betrays you, there can be a day of reckoning, that the truth has a weight that can be measured in a court of law. As the first pale light of dawn filtered through Elena's blinds, I realized the core of my dilemma. My parents believed peace was the absence of conflict, a smooth, quiet life bought with silence. Elena believed peace was the absence of the threat, a predator neutered by consequence. Lily believed peace was the presence of truth, a world where facts were acknowledged, no matter how ugly. I thought of the forged signatures, not just as a crime, but as a metaphor. He had tried to write my consent. He had tried to author a narrative where his theft was a joint decision. Going to court was my chance to take the pen back, to write the true story in the indelible ink of public record. I walked out to the kitchen. Lily was already up, making tea. She looked at me, waiting. "I'm not going to settle," I said. She nodded, as if she'd known all along. "Okay. It will be hard. Ugly. Your grandparents won't understand. People will talk." "They're already talking," she said with a shrug that belonged to a woman twice her age. "Let them talk about the truth for a change." I called Miriam. "Tell his lawyer we're declining the settlement offer. We'll see him in court." The reaction was swift. David's despairing calls reached a fever pitch, then ceased altogether, replaced by the cold, formal dance of litigation. My parents, disappointed and fearful, withdrew into a worried silence. Elena hugged me and started researching the best local reporters to tip off once the filings were public. Miriam's team began drafting a devastating complaint. The morning of our first major hearing, I dressed with care. A steel gray suit, simple lines. My hair pulled back. No wedding ring. Lily wore a dark blue dress, looking like the young scholar she was fighting to become. We held hands in the elevator going up to the courtroom, our palms cool and steady against each other. We entered the hallway, a space of echoing marble and low, tense murmurs. And there he was. David, flanked by his expensive lawyer, looked thinner, older. The aura of invincibility was gone, replaced by a pinched, anxious energy. He saw us. His eyes flickered over Lily, a fleeting glimpse of something that might have been shame, before hardening into defensive resentment. His lawyer approached Miriam. "Last chance to talk mediation before we go in there," he said, his voice low. Miriam smiled, a thin, sharp thing. "My client has nothing to discuss with yours except in front of the judge." The doors to the courtroom opened. We walked in. The air was cool, smelling of lemon polish and old paper. The seal of the state hung on the wall. This was not a place for whispers or Instagram posts. This was a place for facts, sworn under oath. As I took my seat at the plaintiff's table, I felt no rage, no fiery vengeance. I felt a profound, settling clarity. This was not about being the bigger person or the smaller one. It was about being an accurate one. It was about refusing to let a forgery stand as the final signature on this chapter of our lives. The bailiff called, "All rise," and we did. This was The Forgery, a story about trust, betrayal, and the high cost of silence. If this narrative of shattered promises and reclaimed power resonated with you, if you felt the chill of that forged signature or the fire of Claire's final decision, then let me know. Smash that like button. It tells me these deep,
character-driven stories are what you value. Subscribe to the channel for more cinematic journeys into the human heart. We explore the tough choices, the quiet betrayals, and the moments where ordinary people find extraordinary strength. Turn on notifications so you never miss a story. And now, I turn it over to you. What's your verdict? Was Claire right to choose the public record of the courtroom over the private quiet of a settlement? Was she seeking justice, or was it revenge? Could there have been a middle path? Let's discuss in the comments below. Share your perspective, your judgment, or a story of your own. This is a conversation, and your voice is a vital part of it. Until next time, choose your signature wisely and guard it with your life.